What overlooked problem that is never shown in apocalypse movies shows would be the reason you get killed during one? I have vibes, so I would probably be taken by the slow zombies while taking a dump. Seriously, I have to take like 4 a day sometimes, so that's a lot of time when I'm vulnerable, especially if I'm traveling and had to go behind a bush. The fact that I live in the UK, so there will be no guns anywhere easily accessible. We'd have to resort to cricket bats and fisticuffs. Sorry Philip. My husband is really into zombie survival crap and has many of the supplies he'd need to hightail it into the woods and live happily for quite a while. But there's one problem. I leave leftovers out on the counter for an hour and he's like we should probably throw this away. He flips out if something has been in the refrigerator more than a few days. This yogurt expires today. Do you think it's still good? Mother is gonna die of freaking salmonella within 2 weeks while I sit on his ammo pile and live forever on half-rotten beef stew that's been in the freezer for a year. Just thought I should shed some light on the perspective of the African American community. Anytime there are black people in post-apocalyptic movies they stay with the freshest fades. Where are they finding a barber? Once the crap hits the fan, I'll be out here 2.5 weeks and then I'll be nappy as frick. Sure, it won't kill me but it will kill my game. How am I supposed to repopulate if my geometry ain't on point? Denzel Washington in the Book of Eli probably just cut his own hair. With faith. Seeing as I'm pretty sure I've adapted to photosynthesize from computer and mobile device screens, I'd probably die of malnutrition pretty soon after the power went out. Or you'll get fat from sunlight and be worshipped by an untold number of women vying for your access to your advanced genetics. The cracked streets would catch my super speedy Heelys all the time, so probably some extravagant Heely crash death, possibly involving a scooter as well. At least your fingerless gloves will stop your hands from getting scratched up. I think one of the most striking things is that nothing has ever caught on fire, and if it does, it never spreads. If you just let a house in many irregular suburbs burn, there's a pretty good chance it will spread to other houses if left unchecked. In older neighborhoods where houses were built closer together from old style materials, this becomes an even larger risk. I don't think this really poses that big a threat to a group, but you'd expect to see a few more swaths of burnt out areas that never got help because of a lack of firefighters. 28 days later was good about that. It's kinda glossed over, but all of Manchester is burning in that situation. As someone who lives out in the country on a farm, most of these things you guys are mentioning aren't that big of a deal. We have our own wells, one of which even has a hand pump. I don't live too far away from wooded areas with plenty of accessible wood to burn in the winter. Would get to use the good old hand saws though. I plant a garden every year and have a cellar so that's not an issue in storing goods. We have lots of guns and animals nearby including deer, bears, elk, turkey, cougars, basically everything that is worth hunting. We have grain bins full of wheat from August until March-April, 40k bushels, so we could make flour for a long time. My house is about 15-20 miles away from a river which is heavily dammed, as well as the same distance from a large wind farm, so it's likely that we could get power established even eventually. I suppose my biggest threat is actually other people. In a truly end of the world situation, other people might just shoot me because they are desperate. Hard to protect against that. Yo Ginger, how you doing? Sorry man, I lost your address, can you post that again? I would really like to get in touch with you dude. Just like old times back in that grade school we both went to. I'm certain I would die from being sarcastic to the wrong person, or at the wrong time. In fact, that's probably how I'll die anyway. Way to keep a good attitude. This probably wouldn't kill anyone, but I always wondered what would happen if someone had braces on. They'd be stuck with braces practically forever. And safe drinking water. Pretty much all tap water in the US is treated. In an apocalypse, that will stop. I'd probably die of dysentery or cholera. Winter. I don't think people understand how difficult it would be for the average person to survive a harsh, relentless winter. I never could get over how they spent the entire Little House on the Prairie season of Walking Dead talking about how lucky they were to have a place to stay during winter, how often winter was mentioned was coming, and then at the end you are thinking, wow, well, best of freaking luck to them now that those plans are fricked. You sit down for the new season thinking, oh, and you thought the zombies were the only threat. Try starvation and frostbite on for size call. But nope, fast forward to them eating beans in a drum circle and everyone is fine. Let's just skip all that boring double jeopardy of zombies mixed with actual survival. Same problem with the end of Snowpiercer. No way those two had the training or knowledge to survive a single week. They'd all be dead. To be fair, they are from Georgia, whose winter is nowhere as bad as other parts of the country. I'm an upstate New Yorker and know I would be fricked if I had to live through the winter with no power here. None of the characters in The Walking Dead seem to bathe at all. If you got a cut, it's pretty likely that it would get infected and you would die from it. Every time a character in that show would frick, I'd be sitting there like, I bet that room just smells awful now. As much as I would love to think I would die fighting off a massive horde of zombies, fighting until the last round in my mag, I would probably die of some unknown infection I got and failed to find the proper medication to treat it. The latter is so boring. Everyone in The Walking Dead and other shows' movies has perfect vision. I wear contacts and am absolutely blind without them. But since you get nasty infections from wearing them too long without proper cleaning solution, it's safe to say contacts wouldn't be a viable option. Also, I would give myself about a week before I lose my glasses, so I'm a goner as soon as those suckers are lost. I live in New York City. I'm just straight up fricked, no matter what kind of apocalypse it is. Zombies, 8.5 million of them beating down my door. Aliens, giant monsters, they always go for NYC. Climate change, well, I can swim I guess, but nope, probably still dead. Plague, again, 8.5 million potential carriers. Anyone well off after a few months are likely unsavory characters. People who hoard all sorts of crap and makes all the preparations but don't have a gun. By the end of a few months, they're somebody else's crap. Anyone with a house full of stuff at that point are not likely to be the original inhabitants. No matter what kind of apocalypse, the only people that aren't going to be starving, or dead of starvation, or murdered by starving starverers, are going to be small rural and coastal communities off the beaten path that band together under a strong, not at all democratic leader, and they are still going to be hungry. That whole monthly period thing. There's always something about the zombies smelling the people, and you're trying to tell me that a week of constant blood isn't going to alert them? In times of physical stress, periods often stop entirely. Freaking children. Well, not freaking them. If you have a 0-6-year-old, you are fricked. All it takes is one whine or tantrum and your whole group, family or whatever will be eaten. Top of all, nobody talks about the average fat butt person who cannot run for even a kilometer or cannot handle weapons. It is always about a fit ex-army or ex-cop. They mentioned it in Zombieland. The fatties fell first. I died trying to save my family. If something happened to them and I survived, I'd probably have a decent shot at living for a while in a zombie-style apocalypse, as long as I was able to get over their deaths and not just kill myself. It really bothered me that no one on The Walking Dead never figured out that you can prevent being bitten if you just fashion a suit of bite-proof armor. Kevlar riot gear would be the best, but in a pinch you could use leather clothing and duct tape to be pretty impenetrable. Then you just get a weapon like a sword spear that doesn't run out of ammo and go zombie hunting. There's a finite number of zombies in the world, and if you kill enough in a city, that city becomes relatively safe. Still, your group wears their bite-proof suits 24/7 to play it safe, but it wouldn't be too long until you could start building fences and such and start reactivating the various modern tech structures in the city. After a few years you've got the entire city cleaned out and fences erected around the city for protection. You attract more and more survivors and eventually someone knows how a power plant works and you start to get modern tech back. Bam! You've got modern tech back and a self-sustaining ecosystem. You can start to rebuild civilization. Food poisoning. My immune system isn't great even with vitamins and disinfectant, and every time I get food poisoning I end up dropping like 5-7 pounds by the time I feel comfortable eating again. This isn't a problem when I can just eat Ben & Jerry's to get my weight back up, but eating partially cooked squirrels shot by a redneck who reuses bolts in an apocalypse? I wouldn't last 3 months. Well, you hardly ever see people eating very much. In real life everyone would be starving and way more irritable. Most people say I'm starving if they haven't eaten in like 6 hours. Now try several days, with non-stop walking to add to that fun. Not to mention the food might not always be the best, so you might get the poops. Nobody seems to ever carry any toilet paper either. In The Walking Dead they do look for food sometimes, but it never looks like enough. The Last of Us it doesn't happen at all. Eating a year-old gallon can of chocolate pudding? Yeah, your guts are gonna be fricked for a while after that. Oregon Trail had it right. I'm more worried about dysentery than zombies. You never see them carrying water. Humans need at least 1 kilogram of water every day. More if you are traveling. Most of the shows show people without so much as a canteen, let alone 4-5 kilograms of water to keep them going. You can't just rely on finding a water source, because there is no guarantee that a water source will be clean, let alone finding it in the first place. Gasoline, oh so precious in the apocalypse, has a pretty crappy shelf life and would probably stop working by the end of the year at the latest. Driving away from rival gangs after your sweet toilet paper? Not in a fully loaded Hyundai you're not. Not sure about diesel though, whatever. Guns, bam bam. Oh crap. I can't hear anything anymore. My ears now have permanent damage and I didn't hear the toilet paper stealing bastard sneaking up behind me with a hammer, and one blow to the side of the head is enough for the sucker to escape with my white gold. If a deaf guy falls in a warehouse, does he make a sound? Heck if I know. Injuries. Most badasses like Rick Grimes shake him off like gnats. In reality, you get shot or break a leg, you're going to die 9/10 times. Swamp butt. All of your toilet paper is gone. Get an infection from all the crap you're carrying around in your butt and die. Rip shit guy. Dehydration. They never really show the severity of it on shows, but without water for like 2 days you're not going to function well at all. Even if it doesn't kill you, yet. Drop bears. There's probably one above you right now. Don't look up, it only makes it angry. Edit. I want to take a moment to remind all of you commenters and lurkers alike to upvote the dang OP. These are some juicy discussions going on here and it only takes a second. Another edit. Thanks for the gold. Wait, nobody got me gold? Bastards. To everyone replying about gunfire, please keep in mind that I said warehouse implying it's indoors. With the gasoline, it will go bad rather quickly, and while there are ways to circumnavigate this, they are generally bad for the engine and will wreck it like your bowels will wreck you without your daily dosage of white lines. Not sure on the swamp butt thing. Toilet paper is a modern convenience, and people could definitely learn to make do with other things. It's not like there were neatly wrapped packs of Charmin on the prairie for pioneers who were living in sod cabins. With the zombie scenario, I never understand why they aren't wearing some kind of body armor to protect themselves. Seriously, they'll be walking through hordes of undead in a tank top and little shorts. I don't mean like a knight's armor, just simply a leather jacket, heck even a denim jacket. Something that makes it a bit harder to bite you. On the topic of clothes, why is it you barely ever see them changing their clothes? They go everywhere looking for food but never try to take any clothes. I'd probably get drunk one night and do something stupid that would get me killed, like hold my beer. I'm going to try and jump over this zombie. Basic hygiene. Handling fesses, corpses, the bacteria on the ground. It'll be like the dark ages for hygiene. Yeah, there's soap, but for how long? After a few months it's gotta be almost extinct. Soap is made from fat. You can use the fat from an animal you kill to make said soap. Social anxiety. How am I supposed to survive without my Klonopin and Paxil when I have to give post-apocalyptic presentations and make new friends in the wasteland without seeming awkward? Gas eventually expires. Stockpile all you want. After 2 years, unless you're using some surprisingly sophisticated storing mechanisms for the end of times, you're gonna have to switch to alternative energy and ditch your vehicles. I'm not sure how far TWD is chronologically after the apocalypse. But yeah. Well, it's been over a year given that Lori was pregnant and Lil Skyker is many months old. So, yay, it should be a problem soon, if it shouldn't be a problem already. They seem to leave anyone who doesn't come across as a vicious killing machine to die. Remember in The Walking Dead when they just drove past that dude hitchhiking down the road and then drove back by later and he was dead? What if he was an extremely talented doctor? I feel like if anyone saw me, they'd just leave me. I have food allergies. I am so allergic to cashews that I'll die. I have beaten this without my EpiPen like twice, but only by taking a totally irresponsible amount of Benadryl and being a stupid lucky bastard. I vividly remember the last time. It was an accident. I ate someone's leftovers in the middle of the night because I was starving and they'd just gone home. Guests turned out to be cashew tofu or something. I didn't eat much before I realized, but it did enough. I even more vividly remember when I was crapping my brains out while puking, while every orifice in my body just oozed as my body tried as hard as it could to detox. I remember when I realized that my nose didn't work to breathe, and that I was puking so much that I was sort of holding my breath for longer and longer while I puked. Luckily, I didn't black out, or I definitely have died. It was freaking dumb, but I rode it out, mostly because I was literally almost overdosing on Benadryl. So that's, I'm sure, how I'd go. Whether it's cashews or some unknown thing, I'm fricked post-apocalypse if I were to ever eat something that has that much of an impact on me. EpiPens expire. Benadryl expires. Eventually, I'll be out of the things that could save my life, and I currently don't know enough about plants and stuff to know of a natural remedy. Not to mention how drastically my list of allergies limits my diet. Limit that to an extreme and I might be in trouble. First, without my glasses I can't see anything. Second, I'm lazy. My laziness will kill me. Man 1 OMG. Zombie asteroids, alien invasion, we need to run. We need to hide in a safe place, me nah. 5 more minutes of sleep. They're breaking through the door, I don't care. I'm just gonna sleep through it. Or, frick. We need to barricade all the entrances to protect ourselves from the undead for the knee mate. Is that a dog? Gonna go pet it. I don't know about the apocalypse, but if I was crossing the country in a caravan to Oregon, I'd probably die from dysentery. You never see women with period stains on their pants. Where are they finding all these tampons in an apocalypse? I think more women would have blood stains on their pants. More women dead than alive. Common sense dictates one run to the store and leftover tampons pads would last forever in such bulk. I scrolled down pretty far and didn't see this mentioned yet, but I think one of the most horrifying things, specifically for women, would be the mentality had towards them in any sort of postmodern society. While unfortunate, it's just plain truth that men are physically stronger and would likely have to do the more arduous work. This would set women back, maybe not in the respect part at first, but certainly to the your most contributing importance is to continue repopulating humanity. I think 28 Days Later pulled this off perfectly in that if there's any fear of humanity ending, most women would be forced to do nothing more than be baby machines, and childbirth is going to be pretty high risk in a post-apocalyptic world, not to mention the danger, stress and hardship involved in raising said child. Post-apocalyptic Earth might be the worst place ever for a woman to be. The depletion of prescription medications. I need Synthroid. After a period without it I'd go into a coma and eventually die. Most people in this thread, Eli 5, how did people survive until the 21st century without gasoline, filtered water, and processed food? In reality most people who survive the initial event would be fine. Life would be tough and things like infections and diseases would be the most dangerous to the average person. In post-apocalypse movies, and others, I see people walking to their destinations a lot, but no one knows how inefficiently slow it is compared to driving. It takes around 10 hours to walk 30 miles, assuming note a few breaks, something you could typically accomplish in a car, presumably in 30 minutes. You better carry a lot of food or hope there's food along the way, I guess. People also think, hey, I walk all the time. Walking for hours shouldn't be too difficult. Wrong. I like to consider myself in good shape. I used to be a long distance swimmer and kept exercising after I stopped. but I've been stranded a few times and had to walk to my destination. The first time I thought it wouldn't be too bad for someone like me. Wrong. After a 7-mile walk I was bleeding from my heels and completely drenched in sweat. Maybe I just suck at walking to places, but it was a B for me. I know that some people run, walk, or hike and it'll be presumably easier for them. But for the rest of us, we're in for a rude awakening if the apocalypse ever occurs and driving isn't an option due to debris and abandoned cars on the road. Movies I can think of with walking long distances: Book of Eli through some desert to California, The Stand, New York to Boulder City, Resident Evil Afterlife, Terminator Salvation, War of the Worlds Kinda Apocalypse, The Road, The Happening, Kinda Apocalypse, The Day After Tomorrow, The South to New York in the middle of an Ice Age blizzard, although I guess he had hiked to the North Pole before, so he had some experience, and lastly Forrest Gump. I know it's not apocalyptic, but running from the East Coast to the West Coast back and forth. Did he just run for years? I mean, east to west and back again would take a year at least. Walking, not running though. But it is Forrest Gump, I guess. Bikes, there's freaking billions of them kicking around. The Road, 2009, is one of those movies that I found to be very true in terms of expectations of what it's like during apocalypse. I didn't have any issues believe it, and it was so real that it actually made me cry at the end. And I almost never cry. Might seem a bit slow in the beginning, but it's a great flick. Salt, without electricity, salt is preserved food, it's hygiene, it's proper body balance. If you needed a lb of salt, where would you get it? No retail locations. Everyone with a brain stripped knows already. I suppose you could start robbing people for it. Read a book called Alas Babylon. Salt is life. Shoe fetish. So many shoes and so few people. Paradise. Until killed by a zombie while blissed out with a pair of Nikes. The biggest one. If you are a woman, you are going to get turned into currency. You will be of value to men and they will collect and sell you. I am surprised this doesn't happen in the majority of them. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.